So you will note that as much as we have said about the kitchen being an important place whereby a chef is working in, but also trying to organize it is very important. So that the reason number one why the kitchen organization is very important is for you to produce the right quantity of food of the highest standard. Of course, when I'm walking into a hotel, I'm expecting, for instance, I want biryani or I want pilau, then the pilau should be, very sweet, something that even if I'm paying a certain amount of money, then it is an amount that I am satisfied with, okay? And number two, the other thing why it is important is that for you to be able to meet the required number of people, okay, on the required time. Like for instance, when you're talking about maybe the customers, maybe for example, there is an event and maybe mostly the hotel has a lot of events, then the number of people who are going to come into that hotel are so many. Okay, like for example, you get an event has 100 people, 150, 200 or 500, then you need to have a bigger kitchen whereby you produce the food, then the food should be able to meet, to satisfy all the customers, and also make sure that you are producing it on the required time, especially if it is an event. Most of the time we do the buffet. Buffet is whereby, okay, for instance, if that word is unfamiliar, I think you have heard it so many times. The buffet is normally written like this. This is a buffet. So if you are maybe having an event and you just want to serve a lot of people at once, you have the buffet, which is self-service, where the guests can be able to come and serve themselves food and so on. So you need to be able to, maybe it is lunchtime, you are serving food by maybe 1 or 12:30, then that food should be able to be ready at that time. So you need also to have to make sure that you have organized your kitchen for it to meet this need. The other one is to be able to ensure that your staff are working efficiently and with the right equipment and materials. So in this point, it's very important to know that as much as you are trying to put up your kitchen, you have considered the staff, okay? Nobody wants to work in a place whereby it is crowded. Nobody wants to work with faulty equipment or maybe with less maybe materials, ingredients, and so on. So you have to make sure that when you are organizing your kitchen, then the kitchen is able to meet all these requirements. And that's why we say that kitchen organization, it is very, very important. So let us try to see maybe some of the factors that normally influence maybe the kitchen planning and design. So you note that even if you want to set up a kitchen or you want to set up maybe a hotel, a kitchen is or the production department is a very big, it is quite a big department in itself, which needs much consideration. So you'll see that there are some of the factors here that need to be in place for you to be able to ensure that the kitchen meets the objectives of your establishment and so on. So number one, we have here this point called the size and the extent of the menu. And in a hotel, most of the times you find that we have two different types of menus. We have one that is called table dot and a la carte. Table dot and a la carte. I don't know whether, have you ever done French before? Did you tell me you did French?
I'm doing French.
You did French?
Yeah.
So when I mention a la carte, I am not like so good with the pronunciation, but there is that one called a la carte, though I can't be able to put the axles and so on. And we have the other type of menu called the table dot menu. Table dot menu. So these are two types of menus that we normally use in a hotel. So if I am talking about a la carte, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not that good with the pronunciation. So if we are talking about the a la carte, then a la carte is whereby the menu is it is wide. Okay, it has wide variety. Like for example, if you go to you step into a hotel in Nairobi, a simple restaurant for instance, you will notice that they have these menus and they have these small sections whereby they have maybe beverages on itself, it has main meals in itself, it has snacks in itself. So that type of menu is called a la carte. And table dot is whereby it is like a buffet kind of setting, whereby it has the main course. Like for example, here what we are going to do, maybe we have the starter, for instance. We have the main course, and we have the dessert. Okay, so you have heard of these terms. So a menu that has a starter, main course, and dessert is a table dot menu. This kind of menu is for most of the time is for fine dining, like for example hotels, maybe whereby if I want maybe to produce lunch, I produce it at once. Okay, even the guests or the customers who come to my hotel, they already know the service of lunch is normally done at maybe 12:30, 1:30, and within maybe 1 or 2 hours we have already closed down the lunch and all that. So if you're walking into a restaurant, you notice that you get to eat anything at any time. Okay, you can't you can't go say that you want maybe pilau and unaambiwa pilau imeisha or something of the sort. No. So it is unlike table dot. Okay, a la carte, you get meals anytime, any day that you feel like. Table dot, you get meals at a specific time. So if we are talking about the size and the extent of the menu here, then it means that when you are planning your kitchen, you have to make sure that you have this in mind. Okay, so if it is a la carte, then maybe the kind of menus that you are preparing here, the kind of foods that you are preparing, they are foods which should be available upon request. Okay, but table dot, you produce much food but at a specific time. So your kitchen will be smaller when we are talking about a la carte, because maybe you are just making a small meal maybe for 2 or 3 people. You don't need a lot of equipment and so on. But table dot, you really need a bigger space, because if you're producing a lot of meals at a specific time, then you need to have also the equipment that are large enough and so on. So definitely the size and the extent of the menu will be able to influence the kitchen. Okay, we also have another one we call the level and the skill of labor. Of course, labor are the employees, people working for you. So the level and the skill, it depends. Are they professional chefs or they are not? So if they're professional chefs, for instance, then these are people who are able to work maybe, they already know the kind of environment they should be working in. Then you should be able to make sure that if you are going to employ professional people, then you should be able to have a bigger kitchen which can meet their, make them become more efficient and work to their very best. But if it is something you are maybe employing people who are unprofessional, maybe for example you are starting up a small restaurant and so on, then you might not even think of, you know, having something big or maybe it influencing your design or so on, because number one, they are not even aware, okay, of maybe some of the standards that should be there and so on. But note that if it is people who are a professional, then you should put that in mind for them to work without complaints, less complaints, and so on. And also the amount of equipment, okay? So I think there is another point here talking about the amount of equipment here, the size and amount of equipment, whereby if it is you need a bigger kitchen, definitely if you need maybe to have bigger equipments, maybe like for example a dishwasher, maybe bigger, maybe ovens and so on, then you require a bigger space. Okay, remember that these equipments also produce a lot of heat. Okay, whenever you run them, there is a lot of heat. You have to make sure that at least there is space so that you do not maybe congest everything at one point. But if you have smaller equipments, then you do not need maybe to make your maybe your kitchen design to be bigger and so on. Another factor is use of prepared convenience foods. Convenience foods here, especially when you're talking about convenience foods, these are foods which are like pre-cooked. Like for example, foods that require less cooking, okay? For example, when we talk about noodles or Indomie or any other, you know, or for example, tuna fish, anything that really does not require a lot of maybe cooking again. So if you, especially if it is a fast food most of the time, and that's why you find that is fast food, maybe for example, Chicken Inn, Pizza Inn, there are people who normally need just a small space, okay, because some of their products have already been prepared before, okay. What they just need is just to combine everything else and just put them in the oven and it's done and the guest is happy and so on. But if it is something that you need to start from scratch, okay, like for example you need maybe to start making maybe a barbecue steak, or you want maybe to make a smoked tilapia, you know, all these meals, you really need also a space. For instance, if it is tilapia, if it is a whole tilapia, you need a space whereby you are going to scrape off the scales, you're going maybe to remove the intestines and so on, prepare until the end product. So this is a place that you really need to consider about the planning of your kitchen and so on. So the other point is decor. At this point, we're talking about the decor. So the decor is about how you make your place look. The presentation of your place is what we refer as decor. Okay, someone comes into your house and they are like, wow. Okay, the wowness is because you have made sure that your house looks really pretty, okay. It looks nice to the eyes, the attraction of the eyes. People feel like, okay, they always want to come there, or if they come there they overstay because, you know, the place just looks awesome, okay. So it depends if you are thinking of maybe creating a decor for your kitchen and so on, then it will require you, of course, to be able to, you can't decorate something small, definitely, okay? You need something a bit bigger, something that you can be able to, you know, put the lights where they're supposed to be, put, you know, enough, maybe if you need to put the finest furniture, the counters, to be able to put them nicely, then it means that you need a spacious place, okay, whereby if someone can just walk walking into the kitchen, they are going to feel like, this is a place and it is very hygienic for you to maybe to just, order the food from, and you have no problems of stomach upsets and so on. So basically, if it is about deco, then it is about you, okay, thinking of a spacious place. But if you are not, someone who thinks about deco and so on, then maybe you can just have a small place and, put a few things here and there. So we have a very important one, which is called the legislations, which is laws. And of course, you're going to do this, you're going to do a unit called hospitality law, okay? And in this unit is whereby you'll be able to understand maybe some of the laws that are there. They are called the catering laws, okay? Catering laws that are already in, that are already, just a minute. Let me switch off my phone. Okay. So when you are talking about these laws, are the catering laws that are already there, okay? There are laws that are already there in the Constitution and restaurant regulations and so on that monitor the operations that normally happen in our hotels and restaurants and so on. So you might find that these laws maybe are the laws that are going maybe to tell you that if you are going to start a fast food, a hotel, or a restaurant, then there are some of the things that you need to put in place in the kitchen before you start your operation. Like, for example, you need to have ventilators, you need to have sinks, you need to have, a lot of things in place before, maybe a fire extinguisher and so on. So if you need to comply with the government and the laws that have been set there for you, then you need to create that space. And even the laws dictate you, maybe if you are operating a fast food or a restaurant, then there's the kitchen should be of a certain size and so on. So definitely it is going to influence the way you're going to plan and design your kitchen. So after the legislation, then we have maybe the type of services that you're going to have. The services here are normally the amenities. For instance, when you're talking about water, we are talking about electricity, we are talking about, the kind of fuel that you're going to use. So if you're going to use, for instance, gas, then the LPG gas and so on. So you cannot, use gas in a very small, place, okay? If you're going to use the LPG gas, remember that this is an explosive gas. Then it needs maybe a lot of ventilations. Maybe the window should be large, or make sure that at least there is a lot of space. So you can't be able to, to put up a small place and just, put this kind of a dangerous kind of fuel with you without considering your safety and so on. So basically, the electricity, the water, maybe how the water is going to flow from maybe the wash up area until the preparation side and so on, you have to make sure that at least if you are someone who needs these things to be able to flow together, then you have created enough space and the design of that kitchen has been considered. Okay. We also have, of course, we talked about the type of menu, and maybe we can talk about the capital. And when you're talking about capital, multi-usage requirements here, multi-usage requirements depends on, it's more of like maybe what exactly are you going to use the kitchen for, okay? Are you maybe going to make some other preparations there that maybe are you going to make some other preparations that that needs a lot of space or not. So if there is nothing else that you are going maybe to be able to so when you're talking about the multi-usage requirements, of course, this is maybe the type of maybe services that you are going to maybe to offer, or maybe the usage that you're going to use. Like for instance, if you have set up a kitchen and your sole purpose is maybe providing food for maybe sick patients in hospitals, for instance, or maybe, for example, in schools and so on. So definitely, you will have to look at maybe in terms of seasonality, whereby, like for instance, if we there was a restaurant near school, and right now, like for example, now that students are not there, or maybe there is a specific period whereby the students are so many, and maybe during the vacations, like the holidays, the students are not there, then you need to consider that. Okay, you can't just maybe not consider maybe your customers, or maybe the kind of services that you're going to provide there. So you have to put in mind, okay, for you to be able to plan it well and design kitchen as the way it's supposed to be required, then you have to consider the kind of requirements you're also supposed to meet. Capital is, we talked about the menu previously. Of course, the two menus do affect greatly on the planning and the design. So capital is the amount of money that you have at your disposal. So you cannot build something which is a big kitchen when you don't have money for it. So you will always plan and design your kitchen according to the money that you have at hand. Okay, so you can't just put up a big structure and there is no equipment inside. So you have to, plan well depending on the actual money that you have. The size and the type of equipment, of course, I think we talked about it before. And labor, of course, we talked about it. If you, for instance, labor here, we can maybe talk about if it is you have so many staff, like for example, you have like 20 staff who are working for you in the kitchen, then definitely you need to plan your kitchen well. You need to make it at least bigger enough for each and every employee to work in a safe environment altogether. So those are some of the factors that you consider when you are organizing your kitchen, planning it well, giving it a good design, just for you not to, find yourself not working according to how the law stipulates, or maybe making your employees uncomfortable and so on. Everyone wants to work in a safe environment, an environment which is more conducive, and it does not threaten their health whatsoever. So from the notes, you can be able to see that there is a kitchen layout. Of course, a kitchen layout is more of the design of the kitchen, whereby at least you can see the workflow, and from the preparation area, the storage area, the cold area, and so on. So remember that in a kitchen, before we go to the organization structure shortly, a kitchen, at least there should be a workflow whereby where you wash ingredients which you make, where you prepare them, where you cook them, where you serve them. And of course, there should be other, small sections, like for example, the store. There should be the cold store and also maybe the dry store. Like for example, if you have meat, you have any other, some vegetables which can go bad easily, you need to put them in the cold store. Most of the time we call it the cold room, okay, where maybe there is the deep freezer, there is the fridges and so on. The dry store is whereby you put maybe dry goods only, like for instance, maybe some of the spices that you may need, the flour and some cereals, anything that is dry, you have to keep them there. So these sections are always in the kitchen, just for you to be able to work more efficiently. It's not for you when you need maybe some cereals or some spices, you need to go somewhere so far to get them. So everything should be at your disposal and so on. So you noted from the notes that are there from topic 1, there is the workflow, the kitchen layout, whereby it provides the workflow, and you find that there are different kitchen plans. Of course, there are the L plans. So these are some of the plans that you will always find in the industry. Okay, depending on which hotel, they will try to adopt any of the kitchen plans that you have in your notes. So there are so many, so it depends on which one the organization feels like it is comfortable to them. So make sure that you go. I have tried to, peruse through exactly to bring you to par what especially we are talking about. So you can just go back to your notes, maybe if you need more clarification on 1 or 2 points that I might not have mentioned, and maybe from next week you can be able to notify me if you need more clarity on a specific subtopic. So I want us to talk about topic 2, which is also important. Topic 2 talks about the organization structure. So the organization structure here is about the staff who normally work in the kitchen. Okay, this is a production area, so this is a big department in itself. Okay, so it has a lot of workers, people who make sure that by the time you get that food, it has already gone through a lot of, there are people who have, done a lot for you to enjoy that meal. So basic structure, organization structure, normally has the executive chef. Of course, there is an overall general manager before even we come to the chef. An overall general manager, this is a person who oversees the entire departments, okay? Remember that in the kitchen we have major departments and we have subordinate departments. So if you're talking about production, the kitchen is a major department. If you're talking about food and beverage service department, is a major department. If you're talking about housekeeping department, is a big department. If you're talking about front office, it is still a big department. Okay, so we have 4 major departments in the hospitality industry in the context of a hotel, and we have subordinate departments. Like for example, when you're talking about marketing and PR, that is a subordinate department. We have accounts, still subordinate. We have the stores, procurement, that's subordinate department, and some other subordinate departments that ensure that the 4 major departments are promoted and work efficiently to be able to ensure the customer is satisfied. So that's said and done. Of course, the general manager is the one who oversees and is also the one who is the head of this, the head, of course, of the executive chef and other departments. So coming to the kitchen organization, okay, the staff who are working there, we have this chef we call chef de cuisine. So you notice that most of the words that you will come to note here most of them are French, and that's why I asked you, have you ever done French before? So most of the times, the words that we use to represent maybe some cuisines that we make, and also the staff who are working there, are mostly in French. So the executive chef is normally called the chef de cuisine. So it depends in an organization. Some organizations might refer them to chef de cuisine, others the executive chef. All in all, it is one and the same. Okay, so it is good to know both of the names so that you do not get confused. So there are functions, of course. The executive chef, this is someone who does administrative role. So most of the time when we are talking about administrative role, is someone who is like goes to meetings, maybe the ones who comes up with some policies, someone who makes sure that at least the department is well represented. Okay, so basically anything concerning the administrative role, he does it. Okay, and another function that he does is just to have the overall to head the overall operations that normally happen in the kitchen. So he's the one actually who approves. Okay, approves everything. There is nothing that can be done when he or she is not, like consulted or aware or gives a signature or approval for something to happen. So especially most of the hotels, they pay really well. Especially an executive is one of the most paid people in the hotel industry. Okay, and I don't know why most of the time these kind of chefs are not really big-bodied. You will always find them they're so big. I don't know if it is big as them being fat or anything like of the sort. They are just big enough. You will always notice them, even if you don't know them. So we also have the assistants, people who assist them in their daily duties. We call them the assistant executive chefs, but most of the time in the industry, we call them the sous chefs. Okay, sous chefs. I don't know if I have pronounced it well, but most of the time we even don't refer them to assistant executive chef. So they are referred as the sous chef. Okay, so they do much work, and their work normally, as much as they assist in administrative work, like for example when the chef de cuisine is not there, they make sure that at least they have represented him or her, okay, in terms of maybe attending the meetings or approving some of the things that he's supposed to do. So his or her duty include, number one, we have the menu planning, whereby they are the ones who come up with the menus that are supposed to be sold. Okay, they do also the costing. How much does maybe a plate of pilau can cost, or maybe how much if we have a casual labor, how much are we going to pay them? Anything that just talks about the control part and maybe the budgeting, they're the ones who are in charge. And they're also known for, maybe for example, they can maybe hire, they can fire, and they can train. Okay, so most of the time, as much as they can hire, train, and compile maybe the duty rosters, maybe tell you that you're going to work in the morning shift, maybe you can work maybe in the afternoon shift or maybe the night shift. So basically, much of, maybe like for example, as much as they can hire and train, most of the times they don't have that mandate of firing, but they are people who can influence you. They don't need you and they feel like you are incompetent for the job. Then they have a say. Okay, they can maybe talk about your demotion or anything, and maybe the executive chef can approve that. Okay, So they have much powers, and there are people you should at least maybe be concerned about, especially maybe when you go for your attachment or your training. You'll get them, okay? They influence the decisions that are made, especially in the kitchen, so much. So apart from that, they also advise the management on terms of maybe if they need more equipments, or maybe if they need some equipments to be replaced, or maybe if they need maybe some fumigations to happen in their stores and maybe in the kitchen sections. Remember that rats or pets normally love where food is, okay? So fumigation always happens. It is a routine thing that normally happens in the industry, just to make sure that everything is safe for consumption purpose. So we have the third people, who are the section chefs. They are called the chef de parties. Okay, most of the time you'll just find some, most of the time they all of these people have their name tags. Okay, if they have a position, they will always be indicated at their badge. Okay, so if you want to be able to, how am I going to recognize this is an executive chef, or a sous chef, or a chef de partie, or associate? So they have badges, of course, and when you go to your training, you are always introduced that there's always induction, whereby you are introduced to everyone in the department, for you just not to treat everyone like they're your equals. So chef de parties, that is the word they normally use. They don't use the section chefs. So basically these chefs are in charge of all these other chefs, okay? So remember, they are section chefs. So his work or her work is to oversee the work that the chef d'associé does, the chef de rostier does, the chef garde-manger or the ladder chef does, pastry chef does, and so on. So let us talk about the chef d'associé. Okay, I'm here. So knowing that the chef de partie is just in charge, oversees, is like a supervisor, okay? Supervisor of all these sections. And remember that a kitchen has, as much as it is just a department, it has other sections in it, okay? People work in different sections to be able to produce a whole meal. So the chef d'associé, most of his functions is making sure that he does anything that involves meat, poultry, anything that is concerned with meat, okay? It's either maybe braising, stewing, boiling, poaching. These are the terms that you're going to hear me mention most of the times, especially when we are doing our practicals. There is a way that you can make your meat through braising, okay? Like for instance, braising. I don't know, this thing is working now. So if it is braising, this is the term that I call braising. Okay, this is a way of preparing maybe a meal. And we have another one called stewing. I think this is common for you. Stewing, just by making stew, just making that maybe beef stew, and so on. So, and we also have another one called poaching. Okay, you'll hear maybe do poach the eggs, poach the chicken, and so on. So this was we're going to do them practically for you to understand, but later in the topic I am going to define them for you to be able to understand when we are going to talk about methods of cooking. But for now, it's just to be able to know that there are some terms that we normally use when we are cooking, and there are so many. Okay, so these are some of the terms, and you are required to be able to know, okay, when I'm talking about poaching, why should I do, or why should I poach the eggs? How important is it when I poach the eggs, and like whenever maybe I fry the eggs and so on. So their work is basically that. We can talk about the roastier. So the roastier, their function most of the time is also they normally work also together with the saucier, but remember that for the saucier, they are normally cooking this meat, especially in wet heat, okay? These are some of the types of wet heat, and that's why I talked about the cooking methods, which we are going to talk about more later in the topic. We have another one called the chef roastier. Especially, they also deal with meat, poultry, and any other type of meat, of course, but they normally work on the dry heat, okay? So this one's, if you need something grilled, okay, if you need something deep fried, they are the ones who do that for you. You also have another one who is important. We call them the chef garde-manger. So this is a common word. Let me use another tool. Chef garde-manger. Garde-manger is a very important person also. He works in this section, which is called the cold section. Most of the time we call it the cold section. This is whereby cold preparations are done. Like for example, the salads, okay? If we need salads to be prepared, of course, salads are eaten where they are cold, okay? So it is just a cold section whereby anything, maybe the sandwiches, anything that involves, maybe for example, if it is the ice cream, the mousse, the mango mousse, of course we are going to prepare all these things that I'm mentioning in your production. They are the ones who do that, okay? Basically, if maybe you're looking for a dessert or a starter, you go to them, okay? They're the ones who can be able to provide that. So they are called the other chefs sometimes, but the common word that is used is the garde-manger. We also have the pastry chef, chef de pâtissier, I don't know. These are the chefs who normally, just from the word pastry, okay, their work is just to prepare cakes, anything sweet, okay, anything sweet. They are the ones who are in charge of that, okay? The sweet dishes, mention them, the cakes, maybe sometimes even the fruit salads, it is just under them to be able to make sure that after your meal you have a dessert, okay? So we have the chef, the fish chef, okay? So remember, the reason as why we have different sections in the kitchen is to also avoid the word here, which is common, is cross-contamination. Cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is whereby maybe, for example, remember, just imagine you are working together with someone who is preparing meat, okay? You are a garde-manger working with someone who is preparing meat. How, definitely you are going to cause the cross-contamination here, meaning that the bacteria or the organisms that are present in the meat are going to be transferred to maybe the salad that the garde-manger is preparing. And in return, it is going to cause cross-contamination, and the customer is going to get food poisoning, and you're going to be sued and taken to courts. Okay, so for you just to avoid all this, okay, to avoid the cross-contamination, that's why each and every hotel needs to have different sections. Remember, the garde-manger prepares things that are eaten raw, okay? So if I'm making, for instance, maybe tomato cucumber salad. I'm not going to pre-cook it or put it in an oven for it to bake or something of the sort. What I'm going to do is for me to just make sure that, you know, my maybe my sandwich or my salad is just, you know, presentable, and people can be able to eat it. It is fresh and so on. So if you get that the bacteria that are here, remember the meat is always eaten while cooked. You can't eat raw meat. So the bacteria which are going to enter here definitely are going to cause food poisoning to the guests, and that's why we always separate these sections. Okay, the sections are two, they are separated either by a wall or something else that they when they are doing their planning, they will have to put it into consideration. And that's why we are talking about the fish chef, chef de poissonnier. So this is a chef who makes sure that they prepare anything concerning fish. Okay, anything that concerns fish. If you want to eat fish in butter or fish in breadcrumbs, or, you know, just some, you know, fried, maybe well fried tilapia, or maybe anything that concerns fish, any type of fish, they are an expert in them. Okay, so you will find that if you just ask for any type of fish, they are ready to prepare it for you. So we have another important one who we call the vegetable chef. Most of the time we call them the entremetier. Okay, the chef de entremetier. So the section that he works in is called the entremetier section. So remember that these sections, of course, as much as they have the names, the sections also are called from their names. Okay, maybe you can just say the entremetier section, the pastry section, the poissonnier section, maybe the saucier section, and so on. So the chefs here are the ones who are responsible for preparation of any type of vegetable, be it cooked or non-cooked. So if you ask them of any type of vegetables, they prepare it. It is their responsibility to do so. So we have another one called my slides are a bit, you know, they're coming slowly. So this is the chef de poissonnier who works, who just does things concerning fish. Okay, and we have the entremetier. This is how it is written. Their work only is to do things about vegetables and so on. So we have the chef de potager. I hope I've pronounced it well. So the work is just to do things that concern soups and you know, dishes like rice, pasta, and ugali, and so on. So basically, that is what they do. Okay, if you need ugali, you need rice, anything, pasta, anyhow you need it made, they know how to do that. We also have another important chef. We call them the relief chef. This is a chef, or the name for French, of course, they are called the tournade chef. So they are the ones who come in place whenever the chef de partie, remember the one who is in charge of all the sections, is absent, or maybe they are on leave, or they are on sick leave, and so on. So he's the one who acts like an assistant. Okay, whenever the chef de partie is not there, he comes to relieve him, okay, of his duties. At least everyone needs rest, and whenever maybe someone is unable to do something, definitely there should be someone who can be able to come to relieve them, and so on. So chef de tournade is also referred as the relief chef, and is the one who comes and supervises all the sections on behalf of the chef de partie whenever he is in absentia. We have another chef who's in charge of staff meals and so on. They call him or her the staff chef or chef de command. So his or her work is basically making sure that the staff meals are prepared. Remember, as much as you're working in the industry, it is not for you to be able to eat whatever is prepared for the guest. Yes, you can't be able, maybe if you have prepared maybe a very nice barbecue steak, you expect that you're going to eat it. No. Okay, what we normally do is that in the kitchen we always allow tasting but no eating in the kitchen, just for you to taste and know that okay, the salt is okay, maybe the seasoning is okay, and so on, but it is not for you to eat in the kitchen. So your meals are always prepared with the staff meals, okay, by the staff chef. He is the one who makes all the meals that are eaten by the others staff. We have another one called the chef de nuit. Is it called nuit or yeah, nuit? Chef de nuit, he's a night chef. A night chef is the one who prepares meals during the night. Most of the time, just from the word nuit is night. So this chef normally comes in the afternoon. And stays for until 11 or something. Yes, prepares meals especially for the in-house guests. Remember that in a hotel we have accommodation, the one that I mentioned about housekeeping. So there are guests who normally come and maybe they have booked the hotel for 3 or 1 week or 1 month, depending on the length the customer is going to stay there. So at night, definitely not all the guests, maybe you don't have so much guests who normally eat. So you might find that in the hotel industry, you might just have 1 or 2 employees who are going maybe to prepare meals for the guests, maybe at night. So maybe if someone wants supper or something of the sort, you already have a chef who can prepare their meals upon request. Another important one is the breakfast chef. This one is the one that makes sure that breakfast is prepared in time, especially in the morning. Like most of the breakfast is eaten maybe, for example, by 7. There are people who are awake, who are going maybe for meetings and so on. So you need to have a chef who has come there very early in the morning to be able to prepare the meals, the breakfast for the guest, especially the in-house or any other guest who is a walk-in, who is coming maybe to take breakfast in your hotel or restaurant. So apart from having all these are the most important ones, the ones that are working in the sections that are mentioned, from starting from the executive chef, coming down to until the maybe a normal cook, okay? Just like a normal cook, someone who is just there to assist the other chefs on operation. So they are professionally known by their French names, okay? You might go to the industry, and the reason as to why you are doing this unit is for you to be able to be professional, be able to know if I'm talking about a chef who works in the cold room or in the cold section, this is a chef who is called a garde manger. So if you are with other professionals and you're talking about maybe a garde manger, if you're trying to mention these terms, then someone can be able to know indeed, okay, you are learned, okay, you already know. If you see maybe someone talking about a chef de partie, you already know their functions. It's not that it is something which is new to you. You're asking, okay, kazi yako ni gani ama what is your work, you already know. Okay, you are expected, if you are a professional and you have indeed done a course in hospitality, then you know what we are talking about. It is very important for you to be able to know them. Go back to your notes and read more about them. So we have others, like for example, the ones who just like support the kitchen staff. We have the kitchen stewards and the kitchen porters. Okay, I think we had ended. So we have this one is misbehaving. So I didn't write them down, but I can just mention them. We have the kitchen stewards and the kitchen porters. So the kitchen stewards, most of the time, these are people who normally like maintain the cleanliness in the kitchen. We have already talked about the ones who normally, prepare the food, make sure that the presentation is so good. But what about the ones who like maintain the kitchen? Make the kitchen look good, make the kitchen maybe look hygienic, or maybe who cleans the pots that maybe are used. Remember that in hospitality, especially in production, we do not use the word sufuria. Okay, sufuria is just used at home, the word sufuria. But in the kitchen, professionally, a sufuria, we call it a cooking pot. Okay, a cooking pot. So if someone mentions to you, pass for me a cooking pot, okay, please don't go looking for that normal clay pots and so on. So remember, if you get yourself, maybe you hear someone talking about the cooking pots, this is just like a sufuria, which is normally used in the kitchen. Okay, it's just that it is a professional term that we use. Remember, as much as you're doing this course, maybe you might find yourself working anywhere in the world. You might find yourself working in Dubai, find yourself working maybe anywhere. Okay, and the terms that we are using here, they are professional terms whereby you can be able to use them in any type of production area. Okay, so the standard terms, they are these terms. So you will not find that people are using any other different terms. So if you are with a chef who is from maybe Netherlands or maybe Dubai, they will just use the same very terms to be able to express whatever that they need. So it is very important for you to also be equipped well. So so the kitchen staffs, the kitchen stewards are the people who normally make sure that the cooking pots, not especially the pots, but also the cleanness, the counters which the guests are working on. Okay, sometimes some hotels normally do not have the kitchen porters, but the kitchen porters are the ones who make sure that the cooking pots are clean. But you might find that some hotels, the kitchen stewards also do the work of a kitchen porter. So they kind of, try to minimize the staff that they normally have and ensure that they are the stewards are the ones who normally do the entire work. So sometimes you might find that the kitchen steward in any type of hotel you are working in kitchen department, you will find that these kitchen stewards are the ones who normally maintain the cleanness of the kitchen. They wash everything, the dishes, the pots, anything. It is their work. Okay, so you don't expect a chef to, touch food, go get a mop, clean the mop. So if anything, you find that there is spillage, what you do, you call for the kitchen stewards and they come ASAP to be able to clean it up. Okay, so it is also not hygienic for you to, touch food, touch the moppers, touch whatever. So the kitchen department has put staff in place to make sure that the food, since food is very sensitive, it is also produced in the most hygienic way. Okay, so I think I can end this session there. Unless you have any question, I think I have covered topic 1 and topic 2. Topic 1 and topic 2. So I don't want to enter into topic 3 because I want us to do topic 3 maybe from next week. So at this point, maybe I can be able to take any questions that you might be having. Had it?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Yes, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you need explanation to?
No, I'm okay.
You are okay?
Yeah.
Yes, so if you get to come across something that is very new in the topics that we have covered, especially topic 1 and topic 2, please let me know, okay, before we start the other topics from next week.
Okay.